What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. It's been about 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks since my last video. Had a few people give me a call, text, comments, stuff like that, asking me where I am, if I'm doing bad, whatever the situation is, and when am I going to come back and all those kind of things. So I figured I'd come on here, do a video about nothing, just like Seinfeld and all that. But before I get to that, I just want to talk about kind of why I've kind of decided to take a break. And a lot of it is, some of the direction, I guess, that, some, YouTube trucking channels, whether it be Prime, outside of Prime, or kind of going in a direction that I'm not 100% in concert with. So I just figured I would kind of take a step back. A lot of the stuff that people are interested in hearing about are things that I'm just really not wanting to talk about. And some of that's the money and stuff like that. And a long time ago, I did a video where I was talking about it, and Junior Honduras, the OG of the game, told me, that's not a good idea. And I soon found out that that was not a good idea. So I stopped doing it, and I just don't think it's really that good of an idea to be doing that for a number of different reasons. And it seems like that's kind of what a lot of people are looking for. If I can't provide that, I was like, what am I here for? So I was sitting here contemplating, do I even keep doing it? Not, whatever. And this guy just walked by and did the nastiest shit ever. Now, if you're a guy that does the whole thing where you hold onto your nose and blow the shit out, that is the nastiest shit ever, as far as I'm concerned. I have a little bit of couth to me. But, this might be a little bit of a long video. I might, be rambling a little bit in this, but, I'm really all about about the mindset, things like that. And I started getting the feeling like that there was a group of people that were against me. And this has nothing to do with somebody had said, because I think in a video I said, I'm just blocking people. And I'm not blocking them because I can't handle them or my skin's not thick enough, which is what this person had said. I mean, fuck, I have a YouTube cooking channel with millions and millions of views on it. Do you realize how many times I've got criticized on that channel? There is no type of a channel out there that gets more criticism than a cooking channel. You got people saying they could do it better. You got people saying their mom did it better. I ain't doing it right. So it's not about that. It's just about maintaining a positive attitude. And a lot of times that's a little bit hard when I, should I say, kind of forget about the positives. It's very easy for me to look at this small group of people and say, you know what, shit's not worth it. But kind of what made me reevaluate things was I was talking to a guy that's one of these old timers at Prime, been here over 20 years, and we were talking about it, and he made me remember all the positive things about me having this channel, whether it's the relationships I've built with people within Prime, helping people within Prime, being helped by people within Prime, things like that. Those are the positives that I get out of having this channel. And it took me to have that conversation with him and a couple other people to make me realize that I have been a benefit to others, and I've got a lot of benefit to myself. So I'm not sure, anyway. So that's kind of what's been going on in my mind these last couple weeks, things like that. Before I get into my, video about nothing, which is going to be about this bar that I used to be a bouncer at. before I get to that, damn, I forgot what my damn point was. Maybe I'll just have to get into that. You know, I think that, you know, one thing is it was hard for me to wrap my head around is I don't think that I've been, you know, I can see how some people could take some of the things I say the wrong way. And sometimes I think I'm saying them to be taken the way that some people take them. But, you know, I have never, like, not taken accountability for anything I've done, anything like that. I've always preached accountability, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't think I've ever, like, stepped out of bounds or anything as far as at least what my business beliefs are and things like that. And, you know, those were the things that I was really trying to talk about. Mindset, having a strong mental mindset, you know, just those type of things. I really wasn't trying to get on here talking about, you know, I made this much money and that much money and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about this video about nothing. So back in like 1996, 97, about 2.5 years in there, I was a bouncer at this bar. And it was a pretty diverse bar. You know, you got the business crowd, you got the, you know, rowdy young crowd. It was mixed racially, you know, all that different kind of stuff. And one of the guys that used to be a bouncer with me was a guy that used to be an MMA fighter. And the reason I'm talking about this video, or doing this video, is a while back, one of my boys on here, check out his channel, Tim Travels. If you just type in Tim Travels Prime, it'll bring him up. But he had done a video where he kind of got in this confrontation with this either shipper or receiver, and, you know, I was just like, you know, that's probably not the way I'd handle it. And this incident I'm going to talk about is one of those things that really made me think a lot before I started talking, or before I started losing composure, things like that. So we're going to go back to 1996. I'm like in my, you know, late 20s-ish. You know, I'm like 260 pounds in the gym 2 times a day. Muscles on muscles, all that stuff, you know. And, you know, I had a pretty good hand game on me, too. If my boy Robert's watching this, I need to have him on here. We used to get in, like, adventures and stuff back in the days, which included ill-advised fights and things along that nature. But I need to get him on here because he's been a truck driver since, like, 94. And I think a lot of his insight would be good for a lot of people that are in this industry. But I just don't know enough about all this, you know, streaming and all that kind of stuff and getting people on. But he'd be somebody I need to get on here when I figure it out. So anyway, back to the story. I was a bouncer at this bar. The other bouncer was this guy named Pat Smith. He was like in MMA fight number 1, I believe. But I didn't know what MMA was. All I knew was this guy could kick ass. And I don't even really... I think he said he was an MMA fighter or something along... You know, I don't even remember. But I didn't know what MMA was. This was before any of this shit was going on. And it was before really... at least in Colorado, all this gunplay and all that kind of stuff was going on. So if you were kind of a guy that was maybe, you know, in some decent shape, had some, you know, had some hands or some mad squabbles, you know, that you were basically qualified to be a bouncer. And you know what? It's, you know, I did well as a bouncer, not because I was out there fighting all the time. I mean, I did when I had to, but because I was kind of a talker. Now, Pat was not a talker. Pat was like the kind of guy that would just, he would be like fight first, ask questions later, and like be throwing groups of people out of the bar. Keep in mind, I don't know, and he passed away. I don't know when he passed away, but like I said, I didn't know anything about MMA. All I knew was this guy kicked ass and he had a short fuse. So there was one day when they were asking us to check everybody's ID. I don't know if it was a sting going on or they had some stuff coming down or the restaurant or the bar had got let somebody in underage or what it was, but they wanted to make sure that we checked everybody's ID. So I was at the door. He's in the bar. Somebody comes in and they don't have their ID, and the guy starts kind of going off, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm trying to keep it low key because I know as soon as this escalates, he's going to want to come over here and get in this fight. So I'm like, hey, man, just chill out. Just go back home and get your ID or whatever. If you come back, I'll get you a drink, whatever it was. I'm trying to de-escalate the situation. I'm not de-escalating it. It goes up into the stratosphere. Pat comes over, and it starts to become a problem. Now, a fight did not necessarily happen in this situation, but actually, well, it wasn't like a full-blown fight, but, hands were put on him and all this kind of stuff. And at this point, I'm like having to raise my voice because I'm young at the time. I don't have my own way about myself, so I'm like having to be overly aggressive just so Pat, can still respect me. So now I'm like, motherfucker, get out of here. And, if you can't come back, all this stuff. And, I'm going that route. And this guy says, I'm coming back. And you ain't going to want to see me when I come back. Pat doesn't think anything about it. He goes back in the bar. I'm still sitting at the door. I'm talking to the owner of the bar about it. And I'm like, here's what this situation is. This guy says he's coming back. And, led me to believe that he was coming back with a group of people, all this kind of stuff. And there used to be this guy in the bar, and he used to go by the name of Pretty Tony, but basically he was this super thin drug dealer that used to wear the little furry Kango, more of the golf style Kango. And just to paint the picture, he'd be the type that would be wearing like the Tar Heel blue shorts with, kind of that era, the FUBU era, shit like that. So he overhears the conversation. Now, I knew Tony kind of, he was a drug dealer and all that kind of stuff. I didn't necessarily understand how much pull he had, stuff like that in the area, but in hindsight, and I learned this later down the road, he was a drug dealer. He did not sell drugs in this place, and he wouldn't allow drugs to be sold in this place. So anyway, he overhears this conversation, and he's like, hey man, if these guys come back up here and it's a problem, we can go out to my trunk. So I was like, what's out in your trunk? It's like, let's go outside. So we go outside this trunk. He had a Cadillac. Now this is like I said, it's like 96, 97. He had one of them long ass old Cadillacs, like the ones you'd be seeing like in the late 70s. Clean though. Opens up his trunk. He has like all these guns, and I don't know, it might have been a grenade launcher in there. I really don't remember, but I just remember there being a whole bunch of stuff back there. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I feel a little bit better about it. He tells a couple of his boys, kind of to watch out for him or whatever. So these guys come walking up, and I'm like saying, hey, these are the guys that were here earlier. Now, Pat's not around in any of this, thank God, because who knows what happened. So Pretty Tony sees him, and he's like, oh man, I know these guys, you ain't got nothing to worry about, but I will tell you something, that these guys, if these guys would have came up here, they would have been all about business. And I don't know if he told me that as they were walking in or after they left or whatever, but it really made me, because this was early on in my bouncing career. It was a second job. It wasn't my primary job. I was selling cars at the time. But from that moment forward, I promised myself that I was going to treat everybody, regardless of what the situation was, with dignity, all that kind of stuff. I really was, physical stuff was going to be the last resort. And because you just never know what's going to happen. And even thinking about today's environment, like back then I'd look at myself and be like, man, I could hold my own, I'm like in shape, I can, I got good hands, but now you could be you could say the wrong thing to somebody that's like 160 pounds, is all about that MMA life, and he might, clean your clock just for running your mouth. And with guns and all that stuff that's going on now, you just never know. And I didn't think about it that deep at the time, because obviously I didn't know what MMA was at the time. And gunplay wasn't as serious as it is now, but even that far back, I just realized that instead of being all over the top and disrespectful and always trying to get in fights and stuff like that, because I used to be pretty active when it comes to that was going to be the last resort. And somebody in the comments section said something about Cool Breeze a while back, and it reminded me of a nickname that I got back in those days, and that was my nickname, Cool Breeze, because nothing really affected me. And I think that was part of the reason that I kind of chilled out on that. So you never know who you're going to be talking to. You could be talking to an MMA fighter that's going to end up whooping your ass. You could be talking to somebody that values nobody's life, is going to shoot and kill you. I've had people that I've tried, that said they were going to, go drive for somebody, and then they go and say some racial shit, not knowing that the guy that he's going to be working for has a white son. You could be in, I was just in the safety meeting about a month ago. There's a guy sitting next to me, I don't know who he is, and we start having a conversation. Come to find out, he's the head of IT at Prime. And I got some good information. I think we're going to be moving away from this Qualcomm here pretty soon. At least that's what he said. But you don't know if it's the head guy in IT. I mean, unless you've been here 20 years, like some of the people I know have been. Head of IT, could be a lawyer, could be controller, it could be, it could be anybody. So I try to really think before I take any stupid actions and stuff like that. But anyway, that's my story about nothing. Just wanted to stop by and say what's up. I appreciate you stopping by. No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. As always, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.